Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 49 of Casual Watch
49.
Talk.
We're getting up there.
Nearly up to another milestone.
I feel older and wiser.
And unfortunately, hopefully we'll get to episode 50 because I've implicated Kris in a horrendous horological crime. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to get reported for this. This might be our last one.
Yeah, we'll not be able to. What's the British Clockmakers Association? We'll not be able to join that anymore. We'll be blackballed.
Be excommunicated from the British Clock and Watchmakers Society.
Yeah, for sure.
Likely, but more about that later on. That was a little tease. So anyway, Kris, how have you been, and have you had a watch obsession? But first of all, how have you been?
Pretty good. Was working out in the garage. Got some fun garage projects I've been working on. So that's been good, keeping me busy. And let's start with your watch obsession. We'll switch it up because my watch obsession is, I think crazy. It may not even be a watch obsession. We'll have you decide that. But let's start with yours. Let's flip it around.
Well, my watch obsession has been trying to get video content out. We're moving house, so it's been very difficult to film and edit stuff. I must have 5 uploads in ready to go in various stages of pre-production or post-production. So if anybody's listening to this that's subscribed to the channel, just bear with me just for a little bit. There's some great ones, but what I will say about those, after the plug for the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel, is that I've had 2 of the reviews, and a big thanks to one of the members of our Casual Watch Talk Facebook group. So a big thanks to Luke, who is a medic in Australia, an emergency medic, and he helped me review the new Boulder medic watch. Oh, nice. Boulder made a watch especially for medics, and I would have no idea whether it was useful, so he jumped on Zoom with me.
Right. Cool.
And then, of course, our channel favourite, a good friend to the show, TJ, he helped me out with a military watch, which I think is what I'll do from now on. If I get a military-inspired watch, I'm going to either ask his opinion, or in this case, I actually sent him the watch so we could see it in person. It was a watch, I won't give the game away, but it's a watch that's specifically designed for Navy SEALs.
Okay.
Or people in the Navy, people in the military. And he had some great, really well thought out points about it that I wouldn't have thought of, like how it would perform in operations at night time and things like that. So I think it's going to add a good dynamic to the reviews.
Super interesting too. Like any of the tool watch stuff, when you're, you very much like a slide rule bezel. Like I was watching a great video about how to use the slide rule bezel. I mean, I couldn't see it without glasses on, but any of those tool watches, like if you have any of those special functions to actually to see how they would be used in the field, and to sort of know that they're there when you need them is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. We know TJ's view on the slide rule bezel on a watch. Right. He's like, no, this is we would not have time for this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
In a military situation.
Yeah, right. The instrument's dark. It's in the middle of the night. You're going to land on a carrier. No, you're not going for the Breitling slide rule. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's kind of been my watch obsession. I've also been really loving. I've always been a fan of Formex, although I've not seen one in person. This is that watch that has that case suspension system built into it. Have you seen these, Kris?
I've heard about them. Haven't seen them yet.
So long story short, the case is in 2 parts, and the inner case, it's sort of spring loaded, so it moves with your wrist. The watch actually moves up and down in the case. Okay. For shock absorbance and
it sounds very similar to the way G-Shock is designed. where the actual movement
Yeah, but
is.
this you can actually move this. You can press on the case and move the inner piece up and down. Teddy Balbazar did a review on this. Federico's he's actually got his own one. They were always quite large, obviously because of the mechanism. But Formex have released a 39mm version, which I'm really liking the look of.
Yeah.
I'd love to see one in person. I might just buy one. Formex, of course, won my heart over when they had me as one of the top 10 YouTubers.
That's right. They put you on you made the list, Sam. So, I mean,
I made the list.
You should definitely,
Exactly. And they said they were the people that, you've heard me joke about this on the podcast before, but where they said, Sam at the Casual Watch Review channel is not afraid to tell Omega what he thinks of them or something along those lines. I'm like, I'm that guy. I'm the
Yep.
Yeah. I love you, Omega.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm looking at a picture of it now. So it was normally pretty large. Now these are mechanical watches.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd heard about it, but I didn't actually see sort of how the mechanism worked. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think they used to make very big watches. I think, obviously, some are military inspired. They were known for this case design, and I think in recent years they've gone more refined. I believe they've even got a new CEO at the moment, but they refined it into more of a sports watch. It's like an Aquaterra type alternative, I would say. But this 39mm one, I think this is just the right sweet spot for it.
Cool.
They're COSC. $1,390, so it's not
it's
a bad
reasonable
price
for
point.
a COSC with some special additional, not manufacturing but engineering involved in it. Cool.
Yeah, and the machining on the roads and stuff.
Cool.
So go on then.
All right.
Let's hear yours. I'm excited about this.
So, bit of a tangent, but stay with me. Do you know what the Antikythera mechanism is? Silence.
No,
Silence.
It sounds like something medical.
No. So it's a little confusing because it's the name of an island. And so there's no Kythera mechanism, and this isn't the anti-Kythera. So it's a Greek island, Antikythera or Antikythera, however British you would like to pronounce it, but Antikythera mechanism. So the story is related to horology because this is absolutely the world's oldest. They call it an analog computer, but it's a clock, but it's way more than that. So the story goes, and I won't give it all away, but I will definitely say if you are super interested in horology, mechanism, things like that, you should definitely check out. There's a great PBS documentary on this. I think it's available on YouTube. You can certainly find it in lots of different places. So what this is they found a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in the 70s. And they found some coins and some old jars, and they found this hunk of brass with gears in it. And they weren't really sure what it was, but they were like, oh, it was, it's probably something that maybe had shown up later, or, they couldn't really date it. So it wasn't until the early 2000s that they were able to get some 3D X-rays of the actual device. And then they were able to date it to about 200 something BC. So this is a clock mechanism that predates all of it, everything. So this is the world's oldest. So historians were super excited because they thought, maybe this is from another, shipwreck. Maybe this is, something from the 1500s or something like that, or maybe even a little earlier. And they couldn't quite date it. Well, this is a clock that is back with the Egyptians. That's how old this thing is.
Well, because the Greeks were always known as mathematicians, weren't they? They obviously birthed the modern maths that we use
exactly.
today.
But no one thought that they had made any mechanisms like this. So after they did these 3D X-rays, they realized that this is way more than just a clock. This is, you know, a calendar, etc. And it turns out that not only did they possess the technology to cut brass gears, this is, again, 1,000 odd, 1,500 odd years ago, like many years ago. I'm not getting this totally right, but what I'm saying is super exciting in that it showed that they had this technology, but then somehow lost it. And if you could just imagine for a moment, you have a very complex brass gear mechanism that can keep track of the lunar day, the lunar calendar. So you have calendar, and then you have all the other planets, the cycles, the Earth, the year. It could also track eclipses. So, what is, magic, but technology that, unrecognizable technology. I mean, if you had this device back then and you could say to a king, oh yeah, so we should probably attack the kingdom on, next Friday because we're going to have an eclipse. If you could predict an eclipse, I mean, just, you're a magician. So, definitely check out if you don't know anything about it, check out, there's plenty of there's documentary, like I said, on PBS on YouTube. Definitely seen it there. Sideline. So one of the reasons why I'm back and excited about it, and I think I mentioned that I have a mechanical calculator, an old Curta calculator. One of the things that makes me excited about this is there is a YouTube channel called ClickSpring. And I don't know about you, Sam, maybe it's just me, but to wind down, I enjoy watchmaking videos and watching machines and lathes and things. Maybe it's just me.
No, I like the wood turning ones. It's really good way of de-stressing watching them wood turn, or the epoxy.
Oh right,
ones,
yeah, like when they make bowls and stuff,
tables and stuff. Yeah. Or they put things in epoxy.
Right.
Those are the things that I probably watch them more than watch YouTube channels. Dare I say it?
Yeah, but it's like a good wind down. Well, there's a channel that you should definitely check out. It's called ClickSpring, and Kris over on ClickSpring has started a project a couple years ago to recreate this device. So as I said, they only have like fragments of it. And they were able to take some like high resolution 3D X-rays of it, which they figured out a whole bunch of other features and functions that it had. So this is a perpetual calendar on steroids. This is, a perpetual calendar that, and again, like I was saying earlier, like imagine if you had, this is sort of the wonder of watchmaking. This is why I'm excited about, when you see these little mechanized devices. If you were to take a perpetual calendar and go back in time 1,000 years, you have a piece of, magic on your hand, on your wrist, So, ClickSpring on YouTube, he is in the process of recreating a version, an exact replica of the device. Well, he hasn't made a video in like a year. And I kind of wondered, like, what's going on? Like, why hasn't he made a video? Well, he just came out with a new video, and he explained why he was gone for a year. And the reason why he was gone, not because of anything with the pandemic, but was because he was involved in a research project where they had gone back to figure out that this device could also convert, like, the calendar to the Egyptian calendar. So it has like this separate, like, complex ring. Just, again, wild, amazing device. I'm surprised you haven't heard about it, but I'm totally geeking out on it all week about this.
Wow, no, I'll definitely check it out. So it was hand cranked. It wasn't mechanized with a spring and or pulleys or weights.
So from what they think it was, you would turn it to then predict the future, to keep track of the seasons, etc. So I don't think it had a mainspring in it. It did have a crank on the back of it for sure. But yeah.
Wow. That's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
We'll have to leave the link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Well, that's been really fascinating. So, why don't we start with a little bit of watch news? So, I think people expect us to mention it. We'll talk about it. What did you think of the Hodinkee John Mayer DW 5600?
Yeah.
180. No, it wasn't. It was the 6900. Yeah. But regardless, it's the John Mayer limited edition
with teal
Hodinkee
paint, special teal paint, and I had posted a picture on Facebook about I had just happened to catch it when it was like there was 5 minutes left to go, and I put 5 of them in my cart because what I wanted to see, and we talked about this, I wanted to see if Hodinkee was going to require a sign up and that they were going to somehow limit it because you had to be a Hodinkee member or have an account. And as I guessed, you didn't have to. And I put 5 of them in the cart for $900 and I did not check out. And then about 15 minutes later, they were sold out.
Yeah, I've got mixed views about it. I mean, it's great. John Mayer's obviously a huge watch collector. He's not only a musician, but he's iconic to watch collecting. Partly because of Hodinkee, also showcased his collection that he's got. AB over on Watch Collecting Strategy did a video on this. I would check it out if you're interested in it. He mentioned that he speaks for all watch collectors and said, about the John Mayer thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's one of those things where obviously this is a good looking G-Shock. It's 3 times the price of the exact same model in a different color. There's no reason that it has to be limited edition. Mm-hmm. I mean, Casio could probably knock out 1 million of these in 6 months without even a sniffle.
Yeah. It was one of the, I think, the key, what am I going to say? One of the key points that I saw being made was it wasn't the solar atomic. So, like if it was solar atomic, $180, okay, now we're in the realm of great. We have a special edition, and it's got the latest hardware and the latest, So that was maybe the biggest disappointment that I saw.
Yeah, you can't help but think that Casio have got this down to a fine art. I mean, yeah, it had some custom box, it had some custom paintwork, but that version of the watch is already available. You could already get it in like 100 different colours anyway. Right. I mean, the aftermarket scene's got them. So you can't help but think that, particularly with that one, that Hodinkee bought them for $30 maybe
probably
cost,
less,
and then they ratcheted it up. Because there isn't $180 worth of watch there, apart from the fact that it's scarce. I liken this to Casio released, and it went totally under the radar, but a limited edition for Blue Note and Blue Note Records. Their iconic jazz club in New York is called the Blue Note. So arguably that has got more musical heritage than just John Mayer on his own. That wasn't limited edition. They were knocking those out as far as I know. You can still buy them on Amazon. So they've got that kind of musical chops, but it just happened to be that it was hyped. It was hyped. It was hyped on Hodinkee for ages. They had that countdown clock. It was like, guys, they're never going to learn because they're making money from it. I mean, having said that, if I was in their position, you know, I just sold a lot of stock for.
Yeah, I will say this. I agree with you. I think getting people excited about watches, John Mayer, great. That's great. I think getting people, John Mayer, Hodinkee, that's also great. Fine, no problem. They want to do a special limited edition. Okay, I'm okay with that. We can certainly do that. I do question maybe the price, as we said, but those are my reservations. And if you can have those or not, you can agree with me or not. The whole part of this that I was frustrated with is whether it's Hodinkee or any other company that's doing special editions online, selling online, they need to learn that all of these watches, along with your PS5s and your Xboxes, are going to eBay. And it was 6 seconds later, we started to see the listings. And
yeah, it is ridiculous that there's one thing taking Blaupar. I mean, I've still got to be in my bonnet about that. Oris, but those high-end ones that they've done collaborations with, it's one thing doing that, but then it's a completely other side of the coin taking everyday accessible watches like they do with the Swatch with this, and then hiking the price up for no reason other than it's a limited edition, other than it's scarce.
Yeah. So with them, with the scarcity, with the false scarcity, it means that someone like me who has the wherewithal to IT click buttons faster and to write a robot script that can click buttons faster, I get 15 of them on the, you know what I mean? And then I turn around and I list them on eBay. There are a bunch that we saw shoot up to about 500. But for the most part, it looked like when we clicked on sold, they were selling for about 350. So twice, or 380. So, about $200 more, shipped and just listing after listing. And these weren't listed and not sold. These were sold listings. So people had already paid twice the price, $200 more for this, to get this watch. That for me is really, that's the thing that sours it. If you had a situation where, hey, we're going to off, hey, everybody, we've got some special, like, how many times you go to a website where they ask you to sign up for special offers, right? Like every single one of them, right? Well, okay, here's what you do. Hey, dear marketing department, you want to give a special offer? You make this the special offer, because like you want to have, 10,000 super engaged people tuned into your newsletter. Throw this onto a newsletter where those folks had to be a signed up member and they could buy one.
Yeah. And why not have, hey, this is the John Mayer G-Shock. We're selling it for $180. We're not sure how it's going to go. We've bought 100,000 of them, so we're not sure. I don't know if that's the exact number. I'm just spitballing here, but say, hey, we bought this. If it does well, what we're going to do another order, and it will take Casio 3 months to get it. So don't go crazy on the buying them secondhand. We'll have another batch. And then they could just keep doing the batches. I don't understand why they create a finite resource out of essentially an infinite product.
Yeah.
That watch is not new. It's Casio bought the paint. They're just a different color paint. I mean, they might have had to do the box, but this is Casio are at the precipice of mass producing exceptionally quality watches. I mean, I'm just about to upload that Casio Giuro, that $55 dive watch quartz. If I wasn't like really obsessed with like just collecting watches and loving watches, that watch is all you would ever need. I mean, it is big. It's on the big side, but that's all you would need as a watch. It looks good.
It's all Bill Gates needs. He wears it.
Yeah, exactly. This is a stainless steel. This is stainless steel watch. I don't know what Hodinkee's game plan is, other than, hey, we're just going to pull this watch out the air. We're going to get John Mayer to put his thing on. Everybody's taking a little cut. It's like a bloody pyramid scheme or something. This is my own view, by the way. These are my own opinions, not the opinions of any other person other than me.
The hype machine is so trite, where you're just like, come on, we're doing the hype machine again, where you're just like, oh yeah, it's gonna be limited and then make money. Oh wait, we're never making them again. And you're like, okay, the hype machine. And then how many times I don't think Hodinkee has fallen for this, but it's around the corner when they're gonna run out of ideas and they're gonna take a limited edition that they've already done, and they're going to re-release it and just make everybody mad, Seiko. And you're just like, wait a minute, I thought these were the limited edition I can only get 1,000 of. And then like you said, because they didn't say anything, because you don't have any idea, They could sell them tomorrow. They could come out and be like, "Oh, sorry, we meant it was going to be $60." Because they don't want to say it. They want to keep the hype train going. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, we've joked about this in the past with the travel clock, where they even though it was ridiculous, the price of it, they at least made reference to the fact it is a finite resource. Yeah. It was this watch company closing down. They bought the movements, but this is Casio. I mean, they're knocking out. I mean, and Casio do their own limited editions. I'm not saying they don't, right. And they, the G-Shock collecting community is very strong. They did that Kith one, but it just seems so like if you want to, because the argument is, oh, John Mayer, I think AB might have made this, or John Mayer's making, people who are his fans into watches. Okay. They might now wear a watch because, but what lesson is that? Oh, you can have a watch, but only if it's a limited edition. Right. They're very hard to get hold of. They're very elitist, these watches. You're going to have to... It's a wrong message for me, but anyway.
I think so. Yeah.
That's
Sam and Chris's opinion on it, so that's good.
This is totally our own opinion. Totally our own opinion. Anyway, whilst I cool down, let's just pause for a very quick ad break.
Hey, it's Chris from the Casual Watch Talk podcast. As our longtime listeners know, we often talk about cars here on the pod, and that's no coincidence. Like a lot of mechanical watch lovers, we're both into cars and racing. A couple years ago, I curated a collection of automotive-inspired straps and started the Campionato Club. Campionato Club watch straps celebrate the rich history of automotive liveries with their inspired colors. Available in a single-pass NATO, two-piece, and our new super comfy elastic NATO. Check out Campionato Club on the web. That's championship in Italian, CAMPIONATO.club.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. Well, we've got a couple more stories, and I've just had a little bit of a rant there about how dinky, but I also have a big apology to make because, and I know you're listening, so if you're listening, I apologise to you. This is directly to Sylvester Stallone, because I might have made a little joke about his RM05 watch, but he did a YouTube video, and he just came across so well. He is definitely a passionate watch collector. There's no two ways about it. The way he talks about his watches that he's selling. And he kind of confirmed the rumours in there that, I don't know if it's a rumour or urban legend, that he basically did save Panerai.
I mean, I'd give it to him. Yeah. Yeah. Him and Schwarzenegger.
Well, yeah, it's funny because he actually mentions that he was the first. He said, and then Arnie was the next one to wear them. Because apparently he went into this jeweler's and he was looking for a watch for that Daylight film, something that was, he was going to be doing a lot. It was very physically intensive for him as an actor. And this jeweler had one in his back case. And he was like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh, no, nobody's buying these type of thing. And so was like, no, show me. And he got it out and he was like, yeah, this is it. This is it for me. So he bought one. And that's one of the ones he's putting up for auction
wow, that actual
at the
watch?
moment.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that first one that he wore in Daylight. Now, he does mention, what I thought was funny about the Richard Mille, I think it's the RMO5, the one with all the gadgets on it. He's selling his version, but when he talks about it, he doesn't mention that he had something to do with the design of it. Now, I think all over the Richard Mille website, it's kind of suggests very heavily that he was an integral part of the
marketing heavy there.
Yeah, he doesn't really allude to it. I mean, he gives a good look at what it is. I mean, that thing is it's a brute, that thing. But right? He doesn't say, "Oh, this is the watch I helped design" or anything.
All right, yeah, yeah. I'm glad he cleared it up. I'm glad he was, because we certainly were harsh. We were a little harsh, probably, but.
Yeah, so Mr. Stallone, if Chris and I will always have you on the podcast. We've got a busy schedule coming up, so it has to be convenient for us. But obviously, just let us know. Get your people to speak to my people or my wife if I'm on a meeting. So there you go. So so a little apology there. And you should watch that one. I'll leave it in the show notes. And I actually went down a rabbit hole and watched a couple of his where he's been interviewed, and he's a huge fan of Patek.
Oh, okay.
That's actually what he wears. So he came across. He's definitely a passionate watch collector. I mean, nobody can fake what he was saying. But next story I would say is: have you seen the new limited edition Seiko that they're doing for the 140th
I have not.
anniversary.
I have not. I refuse. No. Let me click on it.
So,
I'll click it. You send me a link. I'll click on it.
Yeah. It's called the King Seiko. It's the KSK.
Okay.
King Seiko something. It's a recreation of their
original
1965 model. It's got the high beat 6L35 movement in it, which they're really talking. This is from Watch Pro. I went onto the Seiko website for this. They're really talking that movement up as if it's the bee's knees. 3,000, only a limited edition of 3,000 because for some reason they can't make any more than that. And it's going to be, I don't know, it's £3,000, so probably like $3.50 or something.
It's interesting. So I would say I have been a watch collector long enough where I could pick up some of the original King Seikos on eBay for pretty cheap. Nowadays, you cannot get them. They've been all kind of gobbled up. To get an original like 1960 King Seiko. So I was aware of the branding. It's interesting they're going to sort of resurrect that.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, and I don't think I've experienced the 6L35 movement. It's one of their high beat movements. Apparently, they designed it. I was doing a little bit of research, and anybody who knows this better than me, I'm probably going to murder this next bit, but I think it was loosely designed on a movement series like the 4L or something that was Seiko designed to be a drop-in for the ETA 2892, I believe it was. So it's a very thin movement. That's one of the advantages to it. But I'm still a little bit jaded about the Seikos that I've owned in terms of their timekeeping and stuff like that. So I don't know whether I would go all in. If I was going to buy a Seiko, an expensive one, I would go with spring drive. I would
yep.
In fact, speaking of the old spring drive, Watch Pro have been releasing their watches of the year, and it's all in different categories. But for their contemporary classics watch, they have the Grand Seiko, which was the 60th anniversary, the high beat one. Sorry, it's not a spring drive, it's the high beat. They're saying that that's one of the best watches. They've also got a Bulgari on there as well.
From what I know, and our Seiko followers can certainly clear me up, correct me on this. From what I understand, their high beat movements are made to and for and sent to Grand Seiko. So regular Seiko proper does not receive the high beat. They do not have access to this, much like as they don't typically have access to the spring drive movements. Now you do occasionally see them in some of their their high end diver, but I feel like now that they've split a couple of years ago, that's happening. That the sort of the line was crossed, or the line was drawn, and those movements do not cross. So my guess would be, if it's out of the Grand Seiko factory, or the factory that's making those high beat movements for Grand Seiko and also the spring drive movements, it'll be fantastic. It'll be amazing, because the even the 1960 ones were pretty incredible for their time, as far as accuracy goes. And as we've said before on the pod, it's a shame that line is there, and that they're not sort of allowing some of the higher end technology to slide down into more affordable pieces.
It's interesting that you say that, because I was reading something about this movement, and it was saying that actually during the quartz crisis, just before, which Seiko, they're loosely associated with the quartz crisis, aren't they? That they really kicked it off with their quartz movements.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, that's always the story. That first Seiko was always this. That's always the story I hear.
Yeah, and it was saying actually before that they were bringing out some of these incredible, like the high beat movements, like you were saying in the 60s. And I too am wondering why this idea of excellence in movement making, they've kind of plateaued, certainly in their mid-range watches. It seems to be a plateau, really. They don't seem to have improved the technology exponentially in relation to what they were doing in the early 19th century up to the 20th century. So why isn't that? Now it just seems like they're aesthetically changing the watches, but they're throwing in the standard movements that you've always seen. It's not like you said, it's not an improvement in the everyman's watch category.
Right, yeah. So 3,600, 36, what is it, 36,000? Was it 8 beats a second? Or 10? What is it?
This is this Grand Seiko.
Yeah, the King Seiko.
Yeah. I'm not sure, actually. The Watch Pro have done some... They've got whole categories. It's really interesting. I don't remember them. They must do it every year. I just don't think I remember it. But in their chronograph category, they've got the Tag Heuer, the limited edition, the 160th anniversary one. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, it's such a good-looking watch, but that price for me is all over the place. I mean... they've got it here for, I don't know, it was like $6,500 or something dollars, wasn't it? Which, I mean, it's such a good looking watch. It's a real shame that it's so expensive, but interesting as well for their chronographs. They had the Iron Annie watch, which I forget which, I'm gonna get murdered for this. I forget which company. Do you remember which company Iron Annie used to be?
I do not.
It was... I can't remember. But they recently changed names, or the company offshooted from them. Riff, who I used to do the video version of the No BS Watch Show, is going to be screaming at his podcasting app of choice. That is like, oh, that used to be... anyway, I forget now. In fact, I could probably find it because I think Long Island Watches used to... sell this brand.
Okay, I've got the info on the 6L35. It's a 28.8, so 28,800 BPH. So it's arguably high beat for Seiko, but that's not high beat in my mind. So do they specifically say that it's a... I mean, I know the original King Seiko was a quote high beat movement 36. I'm curious.
It's Graf Zeppelin and Junkers is the sister brand to Iron Annie. But
all right.
They have this Iron Annie as part of their... I always forget to look on Long Island watches, because there used to be some interesting watches in his category of scratch and dent. He used to resell the watches that sort of came back for repair or that were returns, and there was always used to be some nice little gems in there, but I've not looked for a while.
Yeah. For gifts and whatnot, we're getting down to like shipping deadlines. So if you want to buy anything, you better. If you want anything for Christmas, we are down to it. Plus, the whole world is shipping everything right now. So, Sam, have you seen the new Vertex Bronze?
No, I've not. Is this probably one of their small seconds?
Correct.
Watches, is it?
Correct. I saw What's on the Wrist had a review of it the other day, and Vertex is a interesting brand. I was learning a little bit more of the history. I think you might know a little bit more than I about it, but.
Yeah, I know they're military inspired. They're actually very well liked by British military personnel. I know a guy who's in the RAF. They do a military order for Vertex. I've seen one in person. They're very well made, but the price for me is a bit of an obstacle that I can't get over. It's a utilitarian watch. It's a little it's a little rich for my taste, shall we say?
Right.
My opinion.
It's so the backstory is this is one of the rebooted brands, one of the original Dirty Dozen watches, field watches that were made. So it's a reissue of that. I knew about it, and I also knew you mentioned military buying it. I thought there was also There's also some limits on it too. They were only selling to military at some point.
Oh, I think I remember this story.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the background was, but yeah, you either had to be in the military or a friend of
Right.
somebody.
Yeah,
that
you
was in the
couldn't get
military,
it
was
unless. So it certainly, a rebooted brand, but I think you're right. I did some more investigation into it. So the bronze, 2,250 pounds. So let's say, what did that be? About $2,700. You just include the VAT. That's easy. It's easy math. You're like, well, you just whatever that is in dollars. But they have the stainless steel as well, PVD, and you won't do PVD anymore, will you?
I don't like I don't like PVD watches. I don't know what it is about them. I think I just like the stainless steel look. I'm reviewing. Oh, look, actually, here I've just tried to click on one of the watches and it says, "Please enter military passcode."
There you go.
Or contact Vertex directly for.
Yeah. So you can't get the M100 in stainless, but you could buy the bronze. Okay. Well, all right. Very, very kind of niche. Neat.
Yeah, so these are ETA powered watches. They do a good job of them. I mean, it's in the sort of Braemont type. Well, actually, probably Braemont's even more expensive than that for their brass one. Yeah, it's an interesting brand. I saw one at a watch fair. It was funny because I think the guy had gone for lunch and left one of his colleagues there. So I started asking about the watches, and the lady there did not know even the first thing about
was
it.
just manning the booth, basically.
Yes, she was just basically
making sure you weren't running away with
booth.
any.
Yeah, I mean they are good-looking watches. I know they do really good military discounts as well, so they are sort of a darling of certainly of the British military. So good luck to them on that.
I think I found them. Because I was last week's watch obsession was panda dialed chronographs, and I think I went off on a tangent on military chronographs, Type 20, et cetera, and I ran into they have a MP45 chronograph, and it has the single pusher, so that's okay. So stop, start, or start, stop, and then you press it again and it resets. Okay. Interesting. And for a chronograph, 3,400, that's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad. Those ones are Salita powered, I think,
okay.
or according to the website.
Yeah,
anyway.
The SW510 it looks like, yeah. So
yeah, I'll have to do a bit more research on that. And if anybody's knows a lot more about Vertex, also if anybody's, we've been saying a lot of stuff about Seiko. If anybody's an expert Seiko collector, we have Todd, who is the authority on Seiko chronographs, but I don't think we've had anyone on the show who's a real. Except for Stephen, who joins us occasionally. I know he's a big fan of Seiko, but I don't think we have somebody who's. I don't think we have somebody who's a Seiko collector that these limited edition watches at $3,000 are aimed
right.
towards.
They're sort of drawing in. I mean, they abandoned that King Seiko, and not abandoned, but that. It's an old brand for them. It's an old trademark. Yeah, kind of retired. So interesting that they're maybe testing the waters, rebooting that.
So as teased at the very start, joking aside, I said that I was going to implicate Kris in a crime against horology. So Kris, do you perjure yourself and tell the story? Or?
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell it. I'll tell the story, and then you can implicate yourself where appropriate. So, you have the Walbrook. You bought it. It has a date. It was a mechanical. We talked about this many times. It's the children's toy 8100 series. Sorry, Miyota, wobbly rotor. So we had taken that out and we replaced this with a cloned movement, and it was doing okay.
Yeah, we didn't go full in with the 9015 movement because they were like $100. So I opted for a Chinese clone, which was still it was still $45.
Yeah. Maybe all right. In hindsight, we should have just put the 100 because then let's get to the next point. So then took a nosedive on the timing. Maybe it's magnetized, maybe not. But at the end of the day, it was a cheap clone movement, and you weren't too worried about it.
Yeah, it was a shame because you timed it so well. I mean, it was within a second a day.
Yeah.
It might be that it's magnetized, but this is my kind of grab and go watch.
So then you surprised me, and you bought yourself the quartz version.
Yes.
Okay.
The Mecha Quartz with the 3-hander Mecha Quartz, and I did say on the podcast, and Mike called me out on Facebook saying, you said you didn't like Mecha Quartz, and now you're saying you like Mecha Quartz, so maybe I need to clarify. Yeah,
I believe the Facebook conversation was like, "Are you okay, Sam, or do we need to send help?" It was like,
yeah, exactly. So, and actually, I still don't like Mecha Quartz chronographs. Okay. I don't like the still 24-hour subdial. I don't get it. But this is a 3-hander Mecha Quartz where the second hand honestly does
looks
look like
it
mechanical.
Sweeps. Yeah, it's watch. a few times a second. So then we know you are categorically not opposed, but no, you absolutely must have a date. You're a date guy. Yes. You've made this very clear. Even on your last video, you made this clear. You're like, go Casio Duro with the date. So the quartz, the Mecha Quartz, no date. So what is he to do, people? What is he to do? He calls, he texts his watch modder friend and says,
Well, he wasn't available, so then I text Kris.
So then he calls some guy that he does a podcast with and goes, can you put a quartz movement in the Walbrook with a date? Like, can we find a Mecha Quartz with the date, or just a quartz with the date? Because it's not going to be a Mecha Quartz.
I can hear the police sirens already going now.
So
the horological police.
So a watch that I made better by putting arguably better, I guess, a different movement in. Swapped the movement in, a mechanical movement in. Now you would like me to attempt. Oh, Lord. So this is to retain the date function.
Yes. This is so that I can have the Walbrook as a grab and go quartz movement. Now this is, I know this seems like it might be easier, but I know this is going to be difficult for you, Kris, because that second hand on a quartz watch is unforgiving, isn't it, if you misalign it?
Yeah, I'm not going to let you send it back either. I'm just going to mail it to you and just be like, I changed my address. Send it from a P.O. box. Trying to get the alignment right. And then the other difficulty, so we sort of reverse engineered this almost, because you said, we were kind of looking into this. We're talking about a watch obsession here. We reverse engineered the concept of putting a 3-hander with a date into this watch. There isn't a drop-in one. There isn't one that just sort of drops in. And that helps me to explain why their quartz version, their Mecha Quartz version, doesn't have the date. Because, it's not a... This is going to require, a special movement holder. This is going to require some... So... When I started sending you CAD drawings, how excited were you?
Yeah, I realized that it was no simple ask, and surprisingly, not surprisingly, there is not a lot of forums where people are asking can I swap this? There's a lot of people like, can I swap this quartz out for a mechanical? But the other way around, the forbidden way around.
Every time I did a Google search, I did it the right way, just so I wouldn't get. You know how you don't Google certain things. I didn't Google switch quartz switch mechanical with quartz. I did not Google that. I was always like, so is this like a drop-in replacement? I would use those terms. The story, though, is it looks like we might have a winner. I actually had kind of gone back and forth, but the one of the biggest problems is the hand size. So mechanical watches, well, and not even mechanical watches, like just watch movements from different companies, just they have different sizes for hands, and they're not close. So we're gonna need to get some different hands.
Yeah, and that's probably the shame in the whole thing, isn't it? Because the Walbrook's hands are so distinctive. Yeah. It's weird because I actually unsuccessfully tried to put the Mecha Quartz in the, just to see whether it would fit in the case of the other watch, because for some reason, the Mecha Quartz version of the Walbrook, maybe I'll have to do this in a video so that Walbrook owners can see it, the case is slightly thinner on the Mecha Quartz. Makes sense, it's Mecha Quartz, for sure. But it means that the crown really digs into your wrist. And I've never had this on a watch before, where the crown digs into your wrist. So I'm wearing it on that. Remember the NATO that I've got that's made out of an old Land Rover tilt, the old Land Rover canopy. I'm having to wear it on that because it's so thick, and it gives you that extra couple of inches, extra.
Yeah, because it's a good 2 mil thinner, I bet.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether other people have noticed this, where it digs into the wrist, because on the thicker watch, you did not notice it at all, but on this one, and it's got a very well-machined crown that sort of is a bit like a cheese grater on your wrist.
Yeah. So this project, if we get this to work, will you keep it forever? That's the question.
I won't be able to sell it afterwards. That's for one sure that you've kind of...
So... Yeah. Or what you do is, I have at least a stack here of all the original parts and pieces. You could just offer it with the original parts. We had some service done to it. We got the original crown and stem and movement and second movement. And
it's like when you go to a fancy restaurant and you get deconstructed apple pie, and it's like a little bit of pastry, the pie filling, and then the bottom. This will be a deconstructed watch.
Exactly. And I had already done some extent. So if you didn't catch it, I posted some pictures up on our Facebook group. If you're not a member, definitely join us over there. But I took a drill to the movement holder already. We are already the warranty has been void already. So I don't know, Sam. It was good. Well, it was good while it lasted. So.
Yeah, and to be honest, joking aside, this watch was very much, it was a Kickstarter watch, so it came in, I would argue, semi-prototype form anyway, and that movement, the 8015, I think it was in there, it was not good. I mentioned this in the review itself. Yeah. It was just not great at all, which was it was a real shame, actually. But anyway, and I've just become really... I don't know, paranoid about accuracy for some reason. I don't know what it is with me this year that I'm just really bothered about accuracy.
I hope I didn't give it to you. I'm sorry if I did.
No. It's one of those things. So I do find myself more often than not wearing a quartz now. In fact, when you strip the movement out of the Walbrook, I'll really only have
be down to
two mechanical watches. I'll have my old grandfather's Timex, and then the turtle that we worked on. Oh, some guy got totally wrapped around the axle on my watch reviews about the fact that we changed the movement in the turtle. He was like, "Oh, well, you say this is your watch collection, but you've changed all the watches so they're not like their original selves." I'm like, dude, okay.
It's like the NH35 is the 6L or 6R, whatever, 15. What is it? 6.
6R.
6R.
4R35.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah, it's the same. I think I even asked you if you wanted to put the rotor on it, because it's the same watch. It's the same movement. So
yeah, So it's one of those things. But I don't know. I'm kind of back to being a little kid, thinking, I wonder what it would be like if we could do it. It's worth it because it was sort of a prototype watch anyway, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, but I just want to see if we could do it. I think it would make for a great YouTube video.
Yeah, I also think on your watch journey, I think this is because you sort of now have the the wherewithal to do it, or I'm giving you the I'm making this available as an option. You definitely get lost. I found this when I first started modding Seikos. Once you have swapped out a dial in hands on a Seiko, like any of the Seiko 5s, they are all the same. So like if you're interested in like getting involved, and I mean we did a pod a while ago on watch modding, and I talked about movements and interchangeability and things like that. I mean, any of the Seiko 5s, you take any dial, any hands, they'll swap into anything. I mean, just whatever you want to make. And then most of those will swap into any like SKX, and then turtles, and I mean, and sumos, and et cetera, et cetera. And there's a couple of caveats where there's certain bezels have to be changed and certain chapter rings, but I mean, like the dials are 28.5. I mean, like all of them. I mean, it's same movements, same hands, same everything. So it really opens up a door, and then you're like, oh goodness, how far can I go?
Yeah, this is that joke that we often make, isn't it? Where it's the more you know about watches, the less happy you are, maybe. Or can you ever be happy?
Yeah. This is definitely in the pursuit of happiness. Yes. This is the ultimate pursuit of Sam's happiness, of Sam's watch happiness. So.
Yeah, so let us know whether I've gone too far with this and I've implicated Kris in a terrible crime here. Let us know over on the Casual Watch Talk Facebook group.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, that's been great, Kris. As always, guys, we do really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.